I do a lot of networking in person, virtually, etc. But what really adds stickiness to those relationships and opens up the door to something really meaningful is being able to get personal. And a lot of times, I think on the business front, we talk about what it is that we do, who it is that we serve, etc. Instead, we don't really take things to get personal. One of the first things that I asked you about when we had met were about your pictures, that were in the background, the paintings. And I feel that when you do take things to a personal level, you completely reset the area of possibility for where that relationship can go.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to my podcast. As always, I have an incredible guest for you. Now, here's the deal. You know me, I am obsessed with networking, and the power of networking has brought me to my newest friend, Karl. And here's the deal. We have somehow this incredibly similar, not just like a background of the fascinations that we have, but the obsession with helping people get better returns with their money, which is like what I'm all about. But he has an amazing story. That's why he's here today. So here's the deal. I'm going to have Karl go, and we're going to start where he's at now, and then we're going to backwards unwind and unveil his journey. So Karl, tell us a little bit about you and where you're at right now.
Thank you so much, Tiffany. Well, I have been on the adventure of several lifetimes, quite literally. And everything really comes back down to people, right? You talked about networking, and when you're open to coming without an agenda, but listening to people, authentically engaging, just hearing what they're interested in, what they're looking to accomplish, sharing hopes and dreams, amazing things can really happen when those authentic connections are made. So right now, what I'm doing on the professional front is being able to take those conversations around different types of topics, resources, and ecosystems. So those relationships that can become strategic partnerships, and being able to help create plug and play strategic partnerships for companies that help companies to grow faster, that help funds to be able to grow their portfolio companies faster, and that also help companies that are raising capital to shift the conversation with investors from one where it feels like the investors being asked to take a big risk on an unknown opportunity versus being able to soft circle. This is where the opportunity really lies. And because of these relationships and these partnerships, this is achievable. And therefore, the risk is mitigated. And now it changes the whole equation for an investor wanting to get involved in something and everybody being aligned and clear as to where they're going. So that is the work that I am involved in today, and I'm very, very excited about it.
I love that. You're like an architect of not just like the design of how all this works, but of people and then of their business interweaving into other people's business. Like, that's incredible. But it also has left enough vague nuggets that people are like, what? I want to know more. Sounds like I really need to know Karl. So tell us about the real Karl. Like, where did you come from? How did you pop
Real
up out
Karl.
of this world?
Well, I have an amazing set of parents, and I really am appreciative for my parents, for my upbringing. My mother came to the United States from China, and she met my father, who was born with a physical disability, but he was the life of the party. He is the life of the party. Growing up, people were always gathering around, and he would tell jokes, and he was seen as the connector. Later on, he and my mother got involved a little bit in politics, and my mother did it because, my father was trying to get her to be on board, and he needed another person that he knew where the votes were going to go, right? So that she was going to be on board. Now, not that my mother doesn't think for herself. She absolutely does. But it was really, really funny to see how all of that dynamic kind of came together. I'll never forget, though, one time whereby I actually had to go to court, and the judge actually said, wait a second, your mother is who? And there was this whole conversation. I was like, how is it that my mother even shows up in this type of a conversation, right? It was the only time that I had gone to court. So it was amazing to see the impact that little things in life could actually do. And my mother was actually going to become a religious sister with the Mother Teresa's order. And then she was told that there was another plan for her, and then she ended up meeting my father. So just giving a little bit of a spectrum, I come from a family that, we saw humanity in a different way because of the way in which that humanity was brought to us, and not just from outer strength, physical strength, etc., but really from an inner sense. And I think that that's really shaped who I was, who I've become, who I am. So growing up in New Jersey, I'm the oldest of 6 children. I've got 3 brothers and 2 sisters, and it was a family that was full of love, and we were also highly competitive. So I could tell you that on the basketball court, it didn't sit well with me that my younger brother, he seemed to not have to study. I'm not saying that he didn't. He's very, very, very accomplished, but it seemed like he didn't have to study. He had natural athletic capability. It was like, man, he's got all these things. So I'll never forget, we're on the basketball court, and I got so mad, and I hurled the basketball against the backboard, right, against the glass backboard, because I'm older than my brother. I'm like, this equation is terrible. He's got the better height than me. He's got better skills than me. And, so that there was a healthy dose of competition within the family too. And my mother had wanted me to study the violin and then go to Carnegie Hall. My father looked at it as, study the violin, and this will be a form of discipline for you as you go through life. So they really took an approach to how can you learn from, who you were around, what you're doing, how can you make this 360? The arts were very important in my family. Culture was very important. And faith was also something that was very important, that gave a compass to be able to say, these are values that are worth espousing. But one of the things I really appreciate about my family is that there was a certain point at which they said, you're an adult, and therefore you make your own decisions. And you have the freedom, you have the free will as a human being, as an individual, to be able to make these decisions. And that was something else that I feel also just launched me and gave me the freedom to go out and explore, without any bounds.
That's amazing. And that's incredible that you identified your parents were the ones that created that for you. And I love that they did that. Like, hey, listen, you are your own, and they can't parent for you anymore at this point, and set you up properly for that. That's awesome. Now that's structured kind of you having that discipline to keep moving forward. A question though, do you still play the violin?
I do.
Oh, that's incredible. I didn't even know. I'm learning new facts every day about you.
So I'm classically trained. So this all started, right, when my cousins, who were lined up in height order, it was Christmas time, and they're lined up in height order, and they've got the violin, and I am less than 4 years old. And I take these big Tinker toys, not the little ones, the big ones, and I put together a cylinder, and I put together something that looks like a wheel, and all of a sudden I go up there and I'm pretending to play along with them, and they took it as a sign from above that he's meant to play the violin. And I was like, but I really love the guitar. I really love, being able to play this way. So today I'm classically trained, but I play in a hip hop reggae band. And so it's like the rebel in me that just came out. It took that classical training, and I never really appreciated the classical training until later on, exploring other types of music, other genres, and seeing where that classical training really came in hand.
I love that kind of stuff. Anything that's like kind of out of the ordinary. There's a drummer that I follow on Instagram where he puts drum beats into old classical music, and you're like, how does this fit so well? It's like when you understand the theory and the, just all of this around. Anyway, we don't want to go into a tangent about that. All right. Violinist, many other things. Tell me what got you into what you're doing right now. Explore a little bit of that beginning of that journey for us.
My journey actually involves the violin. Well, interestingly enough, right? So I was at 10 years old. If you asked me, what is it that you want to do? You probably would be expecting a single answer. And I was ready with, well, I want to have a company that is involved in car design. I want to be able to also get involved with boats. I want to have a hotel chain. I want to have a line of restaurants that caters to college students, that gives them a really nice meal at a price that they can afford, that they wouldn't normally get this food. And then it's cultivating loyalty. And people are going, you're 10 years old. They're like, what is up with this, right? So my father, had a real impact in my life. And I saw how he tried so many different things. And at the dinner table, he'd be able to talk about history. He'd be able to talk about literature. He'd be able to talk about current events. And he was just very well read, and also had a freedom of going and experimenting, Tony Robbins and Tom Hopkins. My father, being physically handicapped, actually walked on the coals at Tony Robbins, and he can't move fast. Now, the irony is that my uncle, who's 6'4", who is, built and everything, he's moving across the coals quickly and he gets burned. My father, who has to walk with like a crutch and cane across the coals, at that time it might have just been the cane, and get help, he actually did not get burned, right? So it's amazing. So from that young age, my father said, understand that no matter what you do, you're always selling yourself. The way you speak, the way you show up, the way in which you treat others. This is a reflection back, right? And instead of making sales something that was taboo, he was like, you're doing it anyway, so you might as well embrace it, right? And that started me off on the entrepreneurial journey of, well, if I'm doing it anyway, I might as well try to figure out how to be able to move things ahead. And then the other aspect was mentorship. I was fortunate to have a number of people that took me under their wing and mentored me and showed me and opened up their networks and their relationships. And that was a huge force multiplier. But that also gave me the opportunity to be able to see a number of different things, different paths, and even be able to add value in a certain area, pick up knowledge and transferable skills, and then apply them into another place. So on the violin, I'm teaching the daughter of a family friend who was also running a garment, had been in the garment industry. And he says to me, after the violin lesson, how would you like to make $80,000 in 2 weeks? And I'm going, that sounds amazing, right?
Yeah, why not, right?
What is it that I need to do? And so that kicked off a wonderful aspect of the adventure, where I went from, being involved with a radio show, going from the back end. I was about to shoot myself at the end of the day, taking Excel spreadsheets at a financial services firm and getting criticized about the margins in the Excel spreadsheet, right? To going, and right around the time of WorldCom Enron, I started working in the front office with one of the co-founders of this firm that's now one of the largest independent financial planning firms on the East Coast, and with one of the partners who started this in his secretary's kitchen. So really had that startup type of mentality, right? Let's do things lean. But what he did was he humanized CEOs at a time when they were being vilified. So with WorldCom and Enron, CEOs had a target on their heads. They were, to be a CEO was a very, very difficult thing at that time. And so he started a radio show and he started talking about giving them an opportunity to share what it was that they had done, how they had been able to help a lot of people, and what was the legacy that they were actually creating in the process. And would they rather give it to their children or the causes that they care about, or give it to the government when you handled the estate tax situation? So it was an eye-opener, and I was able to get mentored by a number of these different people. And so that really gave me a leg up. But as I started kind of charting that path, I said, ooh, technology. I like technology. Let's be able to see what happens with technology. So one of the guests on the radio show had a WebEx meets Skype type of technology platform. And what happened was I ended up forming a business with my former bosses. I said, look, you run your firm, I'll run this business. And we did a partnership that delivered continuing medical education to doctors and nurses sponsored by pharmaceuticals. With this technology tied into another company that was publishing the Bible on disabilities, because a lot of people didn't realize that Botox is used for a lot of cosmetic purposes, but can also treat spasticity in children and adults. So we took a business model and we literally flipped it on its head, going from $400 to $600 worth of samples that a pharmaceutical rep goes into a doctor's office and gets maybe 2 to 3 minutes of a doctor's time, to 2 to 3 hours engaged with a subject matter expert, hundreds or thousands of doctors engaged at the same time for 2 to 3 hours for $40 to $60 per doctor, and they're getting CME credits.
Wow.
So this resulted in a multi-million-dollar contract with the U.S. Army for the company, multi-year with Walter Reed Army Medical Center. And it was a taste of, if this is possible, and we identified about $250,000 in receivables for our company in the process in 6 months. I was like, if this is what's out there, where can we go from here? So that really kicked things off.
Oh man, that's incredible. Now that weaves into kind of what you're doing, but you're not just doing one thing. Like we talked about so many things. He was like, oh, by the way, wait, oh, by the way, wait, oh, by the way. So like, what are you doing that is so important that you're working on right now? And why is it so important to you?
That's a great question. One of the ventures that I'm really excited about right now is a venture studio that is on a mission of creating 100 companies over the next 5 years. And it's got current and former executives from Amazon, Meta, Sun Gaming, the former Coca-Cola, a whole bunch of different people, right? And that's impressive. But what's really exciting is that there's a core internal team that is working together to be able to spin up these companies, to recruit the founders along the way, to be able to get these companies into market quickly. And that's been an area of opportunity to use the strategic partnerships, to use the networks, to take a look at not just how to drive revenue, but how to drive market differentiation, how to use advisory boards to help these companies punch above their weight class and open up case study opportunities or verticals, right? And also look at data value and how that can change multiples and exit opportunities. So that's been a real exciting thing. But even more than the fact that investors that invest, they make money off of all the successes, what was really impressive to me was the way in which the structure was set up so that each person that was on one of those teams could do what they did to the best of their capability and were incentivized as well off of all the wins that are taking place. So everyone could bring their A game, know that that was being applied, but not feel like, oh no, I'm on the wrong team. I want to go and be on this team, right? They could apply what they had. If the opportunity or the skill set that they brought was transferable someplace else, it would actually force multiply. And in the process, they're really setting themselves up to be able to win at 100-fold level. That's something that's really exciting because it really also speaks to incentivizing people, right? Seeing people as individuals that have skill sets and capabilities and talent, but also seeing that it shouldn't just be the investors that win, but we need to make sure that people are winning. And if we do that, then everybody wins. So that's something that I'm really excited about. Can I say one more thing?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay. The other one is a mental health telehealth company
Yeah,
that I'm really excited because we're using brain scans for early detection of neurodivergence in children and infants. And brain scans, a lot of people don't even realize this, but your DNA and the brain scans, there are characteristics that are very unique to an individual. And why I'm excited about being involved in this is because of the ability to protect the humanity of the individuals and their parents, right, that are participating in this stuff. And this is where we brought in blockchain. This is where we brought in, post-quantum encryption into the conversation, but being able to make sure that people aren't being used, people are being included, people are being appreciated in the process. And so we have some exciting things that are coming out of there. And the telehealth unit is actually being able to help people discover whether or not they might have autism spectrum disorder, right? ASD. So ASD.me is actually, helping people where there was someone on the advisory board who had literally found out in a letter from the government that his child had been diagnosed. And it was like, your child's been diagnosed. That's it. And he goes, what do I do next?
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
So having a father with a physical disability who, thank God, had received a lot of care and attention and love, but not everybody is as fortunate. Now, all of a sudden, you get something that comes out of left field. And being a parent of 5 kids, I can only imagine what that was like. So the opportunity to get involved on that advisory board and then to be able to bring in other resources, we just brought in the AI team. And in 2024, this April 2024, by pairing those two together, we actually took top 5 in North America in the AI for Good competition with the UN. So it's really exciting to see how you put these partnerships, you put these pieces together with a CEO, with a team that's willing and open, and where amazing things can be able to happen. So those are 2 things that I'm very excited about.
This is so incredible. The thing that we want is the gravity of this pull that you are going to have from other people that need to know you, that need to be incorporated into your space, into your world. Do you have time for one more? Do you want to talk about more?
Absolutely. Okay. Sure.
Go ahead.
So a different opportunity that we're getting a conversation about, and this just goes back to how do you merge these worlds together, right? One of the companies I'm working with, the CEO has taken his experience in running a team of traders, building black box algorithms, and being able to price stocks accurately, right? And being able to apply that to influencers. So it really calls into question, oh, you have this many followers, et cetera. Let's take a look at those engagement statistics. What's really going on here? And brands are getting hit up all the time. I'm an influencer, give me stuff, right? And then on the other side, you have influencers that are being spammed by the brands. And then it's all of a sudden very questionable about whether they're actually going to get compensated, whether they're actually going to be valued, or they're just going to be used in the process. So you've got this tension. Well, that's also resulted in the top influencers are seen as safe, right? So you go and get the top influencers, but there's a lot of other people that actually motivate communities and move markets and actually drive the revenue, right? Drive the
Right.
sales. And
Yeah.
so this platform, right, which had done amazing things with tourism boards and music concerts and others, and now being able to take this and say, here's how we can apply this to a business model. Well, this is an example of this exchange of value that's taking place. Another friend of mine goes, hey, Karl, I'm on the board of a company that's the only FAA certified company to be able to clean airports using drones. And so by connecting these two together, we have this amazing exchange of value whereby tourism board introductions are getting made for the one company, right? And then on the other side, we're getting introduced to people who have hundreds of properties in real estate and arenas, other types of things. So that plug and play effortlessly, I guess, when you identify those things. Now, those relationships have been cultivated over time, but when you have the relationship basis, all of a sudden that's happening in a matter of weeks, right? I mean, literally, boom, now we're going into contract and we're having some of those conversations. So those things are really exciting. In my world, I get to see a lot on the cutting edge with VR and AR and immersive technologies and oil and gas and alternative energy. And so that's where it's been such an adventure. Like I worked with the inventor of the parabolic solar array during 2000, a little bit after 2008. We actually had conversations about retooling big three automotive plants to be able to create photovoltaic solutions, right, for the cells for solar panels in the United States to be able to compete with China. Because at that point, there was an inflection point where we could compete with China. But again, it was all about connecting people and resources and components together. You know, Henry Ford said, I don't have to be the smartest guy in the room because I know who to be able to call. And that's something that I've embraced. It's so freeing because it's like, if I just appreciate, Tiffany, what it is that you can do, what you can do with Aspen Sage, how can that help somebody? I've got somebody who's got, a background that's not only taking a look at traditional real estate, but also says, hey, I'm looking at futures, I'm looking at digital assets as well. And all of a sudden I go, wait a second, I know somebody who you should speak with because this is the thing that fits. All I need to do is listen, and then I get to participate in the fireworks that start taking place, as opposed to worrying about having to go to school, get this degree and that degree, and become an expert in this area. So it becomes so freeing. So that's what I love about the life and the skill sets that I've been blessed with, is that I can go out, I can be at a dinner or just walking down the street, start up a conversation and find points of commonality, interest, and even ways to be able to create value together.
Absolutely. I think that's what it's all about. It's like really, really listening to everybody, because everybody's has a problem, whatever that is. But at the same time, if I know more and more and more people, I can weave in this network of people to help solve, because someone else has already invented a way to solve what it is. I mean, and we live in America. You could do anything. You could darn near do anything, and we could show you how to be an entrepreneur. You could pay your bills. You don't have to just be an employee. And the fact that you run so many businesses and you're going to open 100 more now. Do you want to be do you want to open them yourself or with a team of people, those 100 businesses?
Yeah, so that's a great question. What I love about this venture studio is that I get to be part of the team and benefit from the infrastructure. And the other thing is I've picked up equity in a variety of different businesses, but a lot of times it's about working with those teams. And instead of saying, okay, I'm going to build this business by myself, or I'm going to go and start this business, it's really about the collaboration. And then we just use an entity. It's about having the vehicles. And so by having the vehicles and participating in those vehicles and having those teams there, it allows you to be in multiple places, I guess you could say, at the same time, or even crisscross value between them. and be able to participate without having to take on it. I'm not a Jack Dorsey, like who is running Square and Twitter at the same time, or Elon Musk, who's running all these multiple companies. What I've been trying to focus in on is how am I able to empower other people and their businesses and have a way of participating. And sometimes that also includes equity ownership in some of those businesses.
Oh, it's incredible. Now, here's the deal. There are so many people that are going to want to get to know you, and they're going to want to know, how do they find you? How do they get a hold of you? What's your favorite method of, like, I can connect people directly to you, but if they just want to go search you out, say, oh my gosh, I just saw you on Tiffany's podcast. Like, how do they go find you?
So my website, Renovatio Global, is a great way to be able to connect, but LinkedIn has been just a powerhouse tool. I love using LinkedIn. So my profile on LinkedIn would be a great way to be able to connect.
Absolutely. You guys got to friend us, connect with us. Then you can start digging through our network and people so we can figure out how to solve whatever's going on in your business. I think by just knowing Karl, you guys are going to have a bigger perspective, a bigger picture, and a blessed life to have somebody that has so many amazing connections. Now, what would you say is the next big thing on the horizon for you? I know you're doing so many things right now, so it's you're probably already in it, honestly, at that point. But like, do you have something the secret that's next you want to share with us?
I would say that the venture studio is a significant undertaking. So that's where a lot of things are going on. But I would also say it's fun to be consulted for various other opportunities that are taking place. And it's funny, but there are certain things that you kind of move away from and they keep coming back as recurring themes. So I would say that the tokenization of Inground assets is something that I am also excited about and see as a timely vector. And there's been work that's been taking place over years to be able to get to this point, but now the market is starting to recognize that. So I see that being a force multiplier across.
Oh my gosh, that's incredible. You have so much going on. I'm so excited that we got a chance to have time with you today. Thank you for being here with us and sharing all the great things that you're doing. I know that we're going to stay in touch so that way we can continue to see what that journey looks like. Everybody make sure to pause this for but a moment. Go and friend Karl on LinkedIn and check out his website. All the links and everything are going to be below. And I look forward to catching up with you soon. Everybody, thank you so much for hanging out with us for this podcast episode. And I will see you guys on the next one. Thank you again, Karl, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you, Tiffany.